Syndicated source material.
Welcome back to another episode of Syndicated Source Material. So this week we're getting into the 12th episode of Source Material that aired on the Radulich in Broadcasting Network, December 15th, 2014. I swear I re-aired this episode at one point in conjunction with our coverage of another iteration of this story. So the story we're getting into is Batman the Killing Joke. And I looked everywhere to find out when I re-aired this. I'm fairly certain it was around Halloween, like 2019, but I cannot find it. I looked on Blog Talk. I looked on the Spreaker website. I looked on the W2Mnet.com website. I don't know when I re-aired this. I'm certain I did, but either way, I couldn't find it, so here it is again. This is Batman the Killing Joke. Originally, the podcast was 2 hours and 48 minutes, alright? It's me, Jason Teasley, and Ronnie Adams discussing this book by Alan Moore. To this day, this is one of my favorite podcasts just because we have a lot to discuss, and this was about a year after the article had broke. I remember hearing it just shortly before doing the podcast, but there was a Gizmodo article that was written August 16th, 2013. Well, the title of the article was Grant Morrison Claims Alan Moore Secretly Killed the Joker in 1988. So there was a good bit of discussion about that. But anyway, 2 hours and 48 minutes was the original length of this episode, and we got it down to, after edit, 1 hour and 49 minutes. So almost a whole hour is gone. So, and it's not like you're missing a whole lot, trust me. It's dead space and probably a good bit of us just chewing the fat about stuff that has nothing to do with the comic itself. So I've got it shortened down to something that's a little bit more listenable. Here we go. It's Batman the Killing Joke from December 15th, 2014. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Source Material. I'm your host, Jesse Starcher. This is your one-stop shop for some of the great and not-so-great story arc summaries of the comic book medium. So, big fat spoiler alert, the goal of the show is that by the time we have finished, not only will you have been entertained, but you will have a very good idea of what's happened in the book. Tonight's episode is a pretty special one. We're going to be talking one of the premiere stories in DC Library, one of the finest Batman stories ever told, and that was told by a guy by the name of Alan Moore, who is still in desperately need of a haircut. But that does not discount the man's writing ability. Don't get me wrong. He's got some great stories under his belt. But tonight we're going to be talking The Killing Joke. And joining me, we have two special guests. One is my cohort/co-host of From the Cheap Seats podcast, Jason Teasley. My man, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
Awesome. Glad you could get on here and join us tonight, man. And our second special guest from the Screaming Boy podcast, it's Ronnie Adams. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
So, Killing Joke. Teasley, this is your baby. This is the one that you wanted to talk about.
This is possibly my second or third favorite Batman arc. And it's actually one of the books that actually got me into comic books, because growing up, I had just like one story arc that I followed growing up, and that piqued my interest in comic books in general, and that was Marvel's doing the Maximum Carnage arc with Spider-Man. But this is what made me a Batman fan. I mean, this story is so well done. It's visually appealing. I mean, it's just things just leap off the page, and it actually is kind of a morals story, because as we go through this, which of course there will be spoilers, if you haven't read it, then you probably, or even have not heard of it, you've probably been under a rock for quite some time. But yes, this is possibly my second, I'd put it above Nightfall. This is probably my second favorite Batman story arc of all time.
Awesome. Now, you had a choice. You had yourself a nice little gift from Amazon you had to pick from, pick something with, and this is what you picked, correct?
Yes, Amazon had a little screw up on their part, and they sent me a voucher for anything that I wanted off their site. And I actually got to pick up this book for $3, and it's the Deluxe Collector's Edition. It is it's got the introduction from Tim Sale. It's got a great little thing from Alan Moore, Brian Boland. I think Brian Boland actually does. Yeah, Brian Boland actually does the afterword. So I mean, and it's got like some stuff toward the end. It's just little extra character stuff, sketches and stuff, and it's just wow. Especially for $3, it's definitely a treasure.
You can't beat that for $3, man.
No kidding, man. That's an awesome grab. The deluxe edition, which I didn't know this, but the deluxe edition actually they did some recoloring in that. I watched a few YouTube videos today covering some of the stuff, and they had went back in there. They were unhappy with the original coloring scheme of some of the stuff in the book. Specifically, I remember seeing the Barbara Gordon panels. We're going to get to that, but those were recolored and they looked a lot better in the deluxe edition compared to the original. So now, Ronnie, can I ask you, sir? This is we brought you on here. This is a favorite story of yours, also, right?
Absolutely.
How'd you come across this? Is this something that just recently showed up that you had a chance to read, or is this something you've been familiar with for a while?
Going back, I've been familiar with it for a while, and anytime that I ask for people's opinions on different story arcs to read, different graphic novels to pick up or anything like that, the Killing Joke would always come around. Somebody would always mention it. And I put it off for a long time, and finally when I sat down and I said, all right, I'm going to read this, my mind was blown, my world was changed, and now I am so happy that if somebody comes to me and says, hey, what should I read? I don't have, where do I start or anything. I'm just looking for something good to read. I'm always, have you read The Killing Joke? So I'm trying to pay it forward in that respect, but, it's one of those things where it took a little bit, but I have been familiar with it for a while, but it took a little while for me to actually sit down and read it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me break down the creative team here. I already mentioned one half of that, and that's the writer Alan Moore, and Teasley mentioned the other guy, a guy by the name of Brian Boland, who was the illustrator. Alan Moore is, if you're he's extremely popular.
Insane.
And insane, yeah. He's wrote some of the greatest books out there, The Watchmen, or not The Watchmen, but Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and also a book by the name of From Hell. I've read two of those three, and From Hell, was that adapted into the Johnny Depp movie?
Yes.
It is, okay. I've never seen the Johnny Depp movie either, so I've heard good things, though. Brian Boland, though, the art in this book, I'll just go right out and say it, is damn good.
Oh, yeah.
I went in, topped on Wikipedia like I always say I do. I checked out his, what he's got under his belt. Judge Dredd, which I'm familiar with. 2000 AD, which I think is still going on to this day. I could be wrong, but I know that is. But both of those British. The 2000 AD is a British comic for sure.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, Brian Boland did a tremendous job on this book. Impressive artwork and an awesome story. Awesome story. The comic did win the Eisner Award for Best Graphic Album in 1989, which I don't think I've mentioned that. This was a one-shot, pretty much, that came out in 1988. Mm-hmm. Alan Moore proposed this story, and it came out in 88. Here's how I came to it. I actually read this story for the first time. I'd heard about it, but for the first time probably about 2 years ago. And that was in a collection of comics it was basically the greatest Alan Moore story, or the stories of Alan Moore. And it was just all about stories that Alan Moore had wrote for the DC universe. Had a lot of great stuff in there. Oh my gosh. But yes, this was in there also, and it was definitely, when I first read it, I was like, wow. Reading it again after some of the new stuff that I've learned, and some of the new stuff that's been proposed, which, we're going to get to that at the end, really made me appreciate this a lot more.
I want to hop in here real quick. This
yes,
is
sir.
actually one of the very in the preface, the introduction that was written by Tim Sale. He talks about this being one of the first quote unquote catch-all graphic novels involving one of the major superheroes. He goes on to talk about it in a little bit during the introduction that you really didn't hear, like, back then when this came out, it really wasn't very often that you got just concentrated stories. You always, did the issue to issue to issue, not the concentrated, quote unquote, what we know as a graphic novel. And he said it was an interesting, innovative concept to have this being it was one shot, and it just basically, it's one of the books that revolutionized comic books as we know it.
Alan Moore is pretty dang famous for doing that. I mean, just with Watchmen itself, that was a huge turnaround for comics. Granted, this book right here it epitomizes the grittiness, although you could probably find more stuff out there at around this time that, the grittiness that comics took a turn towards. And he did it with Batman and the Joker, which, these are two comic book staples that have been around since the 30s, I believe, and told a great story. You'd think that at some point in a character's lifetime that every story could be told. And 50 years later, this man comes around and tells a story like this, revolutionizes the industry, or changes things, too, to a great degree. But, Ronnie, you got anything else before we hop into the story?
Just totally agree with you. As far as Moore is concerned, mental instability aside, the man writes a freaking good comic book.
Yeah, he does. What I did here, I broke it into 3 parts. Now, this story is actually pretty short. A lot of people are probably familiar with me covering like 6-issue or 8-issue stories. This particular story, according to what I counted, was only like 50 pages long, or a little less than 50 pages. So it's for as short as it is, it's packed in there. It's got a great story packed in there. So I broke it up into 3 parts, and this is my jewel of the night here. At the end of part 1, we'll go ahead and break and we'll talk about part 1.
Those who aren't familiar with The Killing Joke, and this may be your introduction to, this is actually them going back and trying to relate the Joker's origin story. And we'll get to a very key thing that that the Joker you're predominantly used to seeing with the Joker. You see it not only in this, but you're going to see a lot of similarities from this story itself to the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of similarities. Like, we kick off with one of the best scenes from the Nolan universe involving the Joker and Batman. It opens up with one of those scenes in this very comic, and that's the interrogation scene. Mm-hmm. And you'll see a ton of similarities between Nolan's universe and The Killing Joke. He used The Killing Joke as somewhat of a guideline, and if you get to also know that Heath Ledger, this is one of the books that Heath Ledger based his character for when he was asked to play the Joker. This is something that he used as source material for getting into character, per se.
Thanks for plugging the show.
Exactly.
I do what I can.
And love him or hate him, Tim Burton also cites The Killing Joke as influencing his Batman from 1989, 88, or 89. And 89, yeah. He said that he was never a giant comic book fan, which is evident, but he said that he liked, the Killing Joke was the first comic book he ever really loved or liked or whatever. It was an influence on that Batman as well as Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight.
Yeah, it's got the Tim Burton quote right here on the top of the deluxe edition. It says, "I love The Killing Joke. It's my favorite. It's the first comic I ever loved." Tim Burton.
There it is.
Nice. All right, Batman: The Killing Joke. Prepare yourselves, because we are about to spoil the crap out of this. Just like Teasley was saying, we open up with that interrogation scene where Batman's heading into Arkham, and he's going to sit down and he's going to talk to the Joker. Now, the whole point of this is actually, you could tell that Batman's reciting, what he's going to say to the Joker. He wants to sit down and he wants to talk to the Joker and say, hey, look, we need to stop this crazy dance that we've been doing. One of us is going to die, whether it be you or it be me. We need to come to an understanding, and maybe we could try and do something to stop this, because it's just going to end in disaster for one of us. Now, during that interrogation, he's sitting down right there in front of the Joker. He grabs the Joker's arm, which I thought that perspective was so cool, the way they drew it. They drew it like you were Batman. You know, Batman, you see Batman reach his arms out like it was, almost like you're a first-person shooter or something, you know. That was such a cool perspective. I'd never seen that before, at least never noticed it. But he grabs the Joker's arm, and the Joker pulls back. Mind you, the Joker's kind of staying in the shadows. He really isn't saying a whole lot. Well, Batman notices that there's a bunch of white on his glove. And at that point in time, he realizes that the person in front of him is not the Joker. It's somebody that put white makeup on to look like the Joker. So the Joker's escaped Arkham, and he has no idea where the hell he's at.
When Batman enters the room, you got this dimly lit room, and the Joker's just sitting there playing solitaire with himself. Batman goes into this whole speech of, this isn't going to end well for both of us. We're on a suicide course. It's either going to be you or me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try to end this. I want to make the conscious effort to put a stop to this before one of us ends up dead. Basically saying, they're trying to basically appeal to the humanity that's inside the Joker. There might be some human aspect to him that it still remains. And then, and Batman's going on and getting no reaction. And every time that Batman says something, the Joker flips the card down harder and harder. And it's just like he just snaps the card down. And then it kind of pisses Batman off. And he's like, why aren't you responding? And that's when he grabs him. He says something like, are you listening to me? It's life and death. I'm discussing here. It's maybe my death, maybe yours. Then when he says that, he kind of sees the Joker kind of being, well, he grabs his hand when he says it's either my death or yours, and he flinches, and it's like, and Batman's like, I don't fully understand why ours should be such a fatal relationship, but I don't want to murder you on mine. And he says, I don't want your murder on mine. And then that's when he notices the white paint on his gloves, and he says, and you can tell his voice kind of tapers off, and he just kind of says hands. So and then it immediately, being the detective he is, the Joker doesn't use this shouldn't be happening. So Batman flips out because he realizes the Joker has escaped. They have pulled one over, and Batman is going off on this imposter. And you see Gordon and the cop run in, and they're like, they don't know what's going on. They're like, you can't harm him. You can't put hands on an inmate. And then Batman just snaps and says, do you know, Commissioner, if you're so concerned about it, it's yours. Take care of it. Now, you whimpering little smear of slime, I'm going to ask you politely just one more time, where is he? Because they think that is the Joker, and Batman's like, no, you guys let the Joker out. You let the Joker escape Arkham, and whatever happened is on you.
That's true.
My favorite part in that, two favorite parts, is where, like you said, he's going off on the inmate, on the imposter, and says, if you harm one hair on his head, and that's when he hands Gordon the green wig and says, Commissioner, if you're concerned about it, it's yours. Take care of it. So he's handing him his actual hair, and that's how he tells him he's escaped. And then you look back at the writing, and you can see that, Alan Moore did an amazing job of knowing, I guess, the Joker and how he knew, like, from these panels, it's like the Joker knew exactly how to tick Batman off. He's like, telling the guy, don't say a word, just lay the cards down, don't say anything.
Keep yourself in the shadows. Just kind of be standoffish. Don't let him see a reaction, because as soon as he sees a reaction, he's going to know that he's been outsmarted. Well,
they know each other so well. It's almost like he knew Batman would snap at that and then grab him and then realize, he's gone. This isn't him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The next part is where we get into the origin of the Joker. Now we're going to get back to the amusement park here in a second, but we kind of get a flashback of the Joker's origin. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, because I don't. I'm just going to throw this out there just in case either two of you know. Had we ever gotten a Joker origin story prior to this?
Slightly.
Not so much.
Yeah, you've got the Red Hood, which we'll kind of touch on in this. But when talking about the Joker, a lot of people go to this as the most famous. This is the most famous standard origin story that you'll see most people kind of reference when mentioning the Joker's origins. The way this is written and illustrated, it actually makes you kind of feel bad for the Joker. I mean, it makes you show compassion for him, and it is, and that's just a compliment to the writing, how it's written, how well it's written, that you can take the most psychotic, manic villain of the DC universe, and it's written and illustrated so well that you actually feel compassion for her.
First part of this origin story, because most of this book will be flashing back and forth to the Joker before he became the Joker, which, by the way, did they even give him a first name in this origin story at all?
No, I was skimming over it because I thought I seen it, but I skimmed back over it, and they don't really reference anyone but his. You find out the Joker had a wife, and an unborn son, and that's the only names you're given is you're kind of hinted. I mean, they deemed his son Junior, and you get the Joker's wife's name before. Well, we'll call him pre-Joker. We'll call him the comedian.
I'm making my notes, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to have to keep calling him the Joker. I mean, even though in the origin it's pre-Joker or whatever. But yeah, you're right. The first part of this origin story sets it up that he was either fired or quit the Ace Chemical place. Or no, I'm sorry, he was a lab assistant, and I'm pretty sure he was working at the Ace Chemical place, and he got fired or he quit to become a stand-up comedian. They've fallen on some hard times, and of course, like any good husband and father-to-be, he wants to get his wife and upcoming child out of the situation that they're in. So, you see the despair that this man has to try and, turn things around. He's unfortunately failing at his comedian gig. He's not very good at it, but he wants out of there.
I mean, the only origin that I really have read about, and of course I've not read, was I think it was 1951. And then Alan Moore kind of adopted from that. He built on it as a failed comedian.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because in this, you think he comes home, he's kind of dejected, and his wife's like, how'd it go? She's curious because he basically had an interview to be a stand-up comic at I guess I'm going to assume that it's a club, and it's kind of like he put so much pressure on himself that he screwed up. He says he forgot he screwed up a punchline, and there's something he says that becomes key. He says something like, "Why aren't you laughing? Why weren't they laughing?" And you kind of get it kind of clicks in your mind, knowing, okay, well, why weren't they? It kind of takes you and kind of puts you in the mind frame of where the Joker is actually coming from, what kind of state of mind he was going in. Because, like you said, he's trying to better himself. He thought he was a great comedian and everything. So yeah, he even says later on that I had a great lab assistant job, but I thought I was funny and I thought I could make more money as a comedian. Therefore, I quit my job to become a full-time comedian, and I failed. So you got to get in the right mental frame of this guy, because all this that you're seeing play out on these panels kind of leads to the mind frame that drives him basically insane.
And we'll just see if this theory holds true as we go through the book here. But on the panel or the page where we're switching back from his origin to present time, I'm going to assume that he is thinking this during this whole book, okay? And the only reason I'm saying that is, if you guys look down there at the reflection where he's reaching toward the laughing clown, in the previous panel you see his wife, and his wife has got that jokery smile on her face, after when she says, and you know how to make me laugh. In that panel, you can see a reflection of his face. And he's kind of it almost looks like he's got a half smile on his face. But then in the next panel, you see him reaching towards the laughing clown or whatever that amusement park deal is there. And he does not look like the Joker. Mm-mm. He looks extremely serious. So my theory is, what I'm going to put out there is that during the times that we're looking at his origin, this is actually what is going through the Joker's mind in the present of this story. He's reflecting back on what has happened before and what has led him to where he's at. Well, we've been mentioning this amusement park the whole time. By the way, the Joker escaped, and he is purchasing a dilapidated amusement park from this guy, to which he promptly kills the seller and takes over the amusement park in Joker fashion. So So just as an aside, that is his new business venture, apparently. He's going to be the owner of an amusement park now. Of course, they flip back and show the Batman. He's in the Batcave, analyzing everything, he's trying to figure out, obviously, where to start. You could see he's lamenting also on the fact that he wants to understand who the Joker is. This is his enigma, and I'm not talking about the Riddler. This is or Jim Carrey. He's trying to understand, and of course, as a detective, the more you understand, the better you're going to be able to track something. If you can understand who somebody is, you can track them down. But it's kind of hard to understand or even try to begin to fathom the mindset of somebody who's pretty much insane. I'm just going to throw this out here also. I know, we're just getting through part one, but how the hell did Batman get the large-ass penny in the Batcave?
I'm wondering how he got the T-Rex in there.
I mean, there's got to be there's got to be a story out there where that explains. I went downstairs. If anybody's listening to this and knows the answer as to why he's got the big penny down there, I think it's actually for some reason I'm thinking it's like it's a token of one of his first cases or something. But I could be totally off. But I could just see him rolling that thing into the cave. Nobody pays attention to the guy rolling the big penny down the street. Where are you taking that, Bruce?
Like I said, he has a T-Rex, not a T-Rex skeleton. It looks like it's an actual stuffed T-Rex also. But if you look at the panel before that, before you see the penny and T-Rex, did y'all notice the picture?
Yeah, the Bat family there, Batman family.
What's funny is, out of everybody in that picture, who doesn't belong in your guys' opinion?
Batmite?
Yes. Why would they put him in there?
I don't know much about Batmite. I know he's doesn't he have extra dimensional powers or something?
He's an imp.
He's a midget.
He's an imp. That's
an
it?
Imp. Yeah.
That's his power?
Yeah, he's an imp from a imp dimension. He's from a different dimension. I have no clue, really. He's one of those characters that I've never really gotten into.
Same here.
Yeah,
I bet you anything. He is the first photo bomb, and they had no idea he was... Teasley, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious. We need to find out why he was even included. The small cameo. Why was he even drawn in that?
He had no idea.
Yeah, it's like, well, there's just this spot up here, and it just kind of looks vacant. Let's just put Batmite there. It's like
Batmite really.
It's like everybody else you can justify being in that picture. I mean, you got Batgirl, you got Robin, Alfred, and just Batmite's just chilling up there and by Batman's head, and it's like one of the first things that I noticed, and it's like, really? Why would you?
I do have a little background information on the giant penny, though. It was a death trap used by Two-Face. And it was Two-Face and the Two-Ton Gang, and they tied him to the giant penny. And the penny rested on a giant coin-flipping machine. And if it landed on its bad side, then Batman would be crushed. If it landed on its clean side, the impact would break every bone in Batman's body. And of course, he escapes it. But because he managed to pickpocket Two-Face's lucky coin and used the jagged edges to cut through the ropes. And then the heavy penny actually instead landed on two of the henchmen.
All right, now let's explain the T-Rex.
That one I don't know. I'll have to look that one up.
Did him and Fred Flintstone have a battle?
I would like to think so.
Was they battling over the Great Puma Lodge or something? The granddaughter of water buffaloes?
That would make more sense than Batmite.
Yeah, yeah, it would.
The T-Rex is Batman's Dino, and every time Batman comes into the cave, and he jumps on him and licks his face.
I want to interject this right here. You see, Batman's at the Bat computer, and he's racking his brain over what the Joker has planned now. What could he be up to? And Alfred comes down with some tea, like he would, and he's just bouncing things off Master Bruce. Is there anything that I can do? Would you like some refreshments and stuff. And Batman goes, and you know, they discuss, and this is, I'm trying to figure out the way he intends to do. It's almost impossible. And then in the next panel, he says something that makes the absolute most sense when discussing Batman the Joker. It says, how can two people hate so much without knowing each other?
Yeah, I mean, you can see what's driving him here. I mean, he's got to try and figure it out. That's the crux of the story, is him trying to figure out why are we continuing to do this? Of the two parties, obviously Batman's the most sane. He's the one trying to figure it out. That of course the Joker could care less, but you're right. It makes a ton of sense. A ton of sense.
Real quick before moving on to the next part, if you go back before we went on to the Batcave without really acknowledging something. I mean, we talked about how he went back and he thought about his wife and his unborn child and how he gave up a good job and all this, and you can see the duality of the Joker. When he's reaching for the laughing clown and he sees his own reflection and he's thinking back about his wife, you almost see that spark of humanity in him that Batman wants to, I guess, get in touch with and get in contact with to say, we can end this any other way but death. And then as he's sitting there looking, Joker snapped back to his reality of right now by the dilapidated, the theme park owner, and he's selling it to him, and he just kills him without even thinking twice. He goes back to his old serial killer crazy ways, and he shakes the guy's hand, and you notice he's got a joy buzzer on it that injected him with Joker serum, and the guy's he's riding a pink elephant, and it shows him as he's walking away that he's dead now with the Joker smile and blood coming out of his mouth still on the pink elephant, and now he's a decoration. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like that. It's almost there, and then it's he's brought back to who he is now, and he kills a man without thinking twice.
And also, if you notice something else involving when you see when he's talking to the proprietor of the amusement park, yes, Teasley used a big word.
Congratulations.
I'm actually kind of showing my intelligence because this book is actually an intelligent book. Mm-hmm. You also notice the Joker is, yes, Ryu just tried to throw a shuriken at me if y'all heard that.
He always shows up on the podcast.
he makes an appearance. Ryu will make an appearance every so often. But also you'll notice Joker is starting to see the flyers. This is also foreshadowing. He sees the flyers and stuff for all the freaks that used to be part of this amusement park. Mm-hmm. And one is like the 12-ton lady or something. And you kind of see that and you're like, why is he fixated on that? You'll come to find out a little bit later. So just wanted to throw it in there.
That's a good, all good observations. Let me tell you, I learn something new every time I do one of these podcasts, and I hope everybody else out there does too. So very good. All right, well, we'll jump into the last part of part one here. This is probably one of the most epic parts of this book, or at least the most DC Universe affecting parts of this book. We're going to go to Commissioner Jim Gordon's house, and I just want to go ahead and point out that Jim's sitting here going over. I don't know, man. You could probably make a case for that.
For her,
maybe.
For a comic, Barbara Gordon's kind of hot. She's a hot librarian.
Okay, I dig the glass. I'll give you that. I dig the glass. Commissioner Jim Gordon is going through his scrapbooks, and he's adding a new addition to his scrapbooks there, his Batman scrapbooks, and he's having a conversation with his daughter, kind of going through some of the, the scrapbooks from the past. And one of the things that he sees is, when Batman first captured the Joker, that was one of the articles that he had in his scrapbook. Now there's a knock at the door, and Barbara, which by the way, anybody out there doesn't know, I think at this time Barbara Gordon is known for being Batgirl.
Yeah, now, she is Batgirl. Secret. Not very many people know that she's Batgirl. I mean, of course, Bruce. I'm thinking, isn't this who's Robin at this time? Is it still
Jason
Dick?
Todd? I'm gonna say it's Jason Todd because I heard here, I was going through the Wikipedia, and in '89 Jason Todd gets crowbarred to death. So unless Jason Todd's been Unless Jason Todd was only around for an hour.
We're not going to spoil death in the family, but Jason Todd gets crowbar to death.
Sorry,
I just
Robin's
like that
dead.
you made a new adjective, crowbarred.
He does too, and I'll tell you right now, that is going to be one I cover at some point. That is probably the first comic book death that really, really bothered me as a kid, because I ended up getting that. I think I got that trade paperback from, I don't know, it's secondhand, I know that, but man, reading that affected me pretty good. So Barbara Gordon opens up the door, and she's expecting one of her yoga friends, apparently, but instead, standing there is a smiling Joker who has a pistol pointed directly at her. And in the course of 3 panels, he fires, and she's laying on the ground, bleeding from the abdomen. Now, of course, this happens right in front of her father, Commissioner Jim Gordon. The Joker, by the way, is dressed like he's going on vacation.
I love that Hawaiian shirt he's wearing. If I could find that exact Hawaiian shirt, I would buy it.
It really, at first I'm like, why the heck is he dressed like that? Well, as we proceed through there, the Joker is, of course, talking to Jim. Jim's checking on his daughter, trying to see if she's okay. Immediately, Joker is already knows that he has shot her and severed, or at least done spinal cord damage. So he's come into this with the intent, at least that's the way I'm reading it, with the intent to paralyze her. Because he doesn't even check on her. I don't think anybody's like checking on her or anything, but he says, well, yeah, I could see it's got spine damage. He's making references to her, of course, because she's a librarian. Talking about her like she's a book, a damaged book, and of course
the coffee table. She's a coffee table edition.
Coffee table edition, because her ass went right through the coffee table. The Joker then proceeds to have Jim get beat up, and I can't even imagine, the horror that this man is going through. He just watched his daughter get shot, and now he can't do anything to try and help her out as Joker's goons proceed to beat the crap out of him. But we haven't got even to the most.
We'll get the story. We'll get to that in the monologue from the ride.
Well, what I was getting to was the fact that the Joker then proceeds to undress Barbara, and she's laying there, and that's all you see. We're done. You just see him grab her shirt, and then it says she's asking him why is he doing this, and he goes to prove a point. So that is where I want to stop at part 1.
Well, I mean, you see who the Joker really is here. It's kind of crazy thinking that he can just walk. He knows that he can just walk into Commissioner Gordon's house and gun down his daughter and proceed to beat the crap out of the man and not really have any kind of, or not fear any repercussion from it or have any fear whatsoever. And it's a pretty horrific ride for Commissioner Gordon here coming up, as we'll see. And you've got Barbara Gordon is Batgirl, and she's taken out so easily in this. She's just shot, paralyzed, put through a glass table, and humiliated and attacked, which is a counter. I mean, it's a reference. It's referenced in a lot of different things. It's actually been panned by several different groups, or one in particular called Women in Refrigerators. Yes. Women in Refrigerators is a term that was coined by Gail Simone. It was a name for her website in 1999, I think, and it was a discussion about an incident in Green Lantern, which Kyle Rayner was Green Lantern at that point. He came home to his apartment to find his girlfriend. Can't remember her name right now, but she had been killed and stuffed in a refrigerator. And so they took it from there. And she took it from there, her and her friends. They made a list of all these female characters who had been, killed, maimed, or depowered. And then it was basically them saying it wasn't fair for, it's kind of a sexist thing to have women, even though they have powers, they are superheroes, they are vigilantes, whatever, they still are viewed as a weaker, I guess, vessel, the weaker sex. And then how she has no chance whatsoever to defend herself, even though she is Batgirl. I'll say this scene was attacked by this group, I guess, and it kind of taken apart.
That's a good point, Ronnie. I think it was due to that group in the New 52. This is all non-existent. They did away with the entire Killing Joke. Yeah, the New 52, DC rebooted the Batman universe and left out two of its most prominent stories. One being Death in the Family, the other being the Killing Joke. And they kind of, I think it's I guess a mark on our society and how PC everybody is. You can't hurt anybody's feelings or anything. This is a comic. This is showing, and actually, if you think about it, Barbara Gordon goes on to become a better part and more empowered part of the DC universe due to this tragedy.
As Oracle, yeah.
And people don't look at that because I'm going to say this, and Teasley being Teasley, as one of the big things Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon wanted was to keep Barbara out of the lifestyle because they were scared something would happen to her. And she meant so much to them, they couldn't fathom if they would feel responsible. And it shows through in Killing Joke. But also, Barbara Gordon, just like in this time period and stuff, when Batgirl was first originated, was looked at as a sex symbol, just like Wonder Woman was. But when writing Barbara Gordon's tragedy, which is what it is, she becomes paralyzed, confined to a wheelchair due to this instance. She is taken out of the physical, not that she's any less physical attractive, but one, she became a beacon of hope in comic books to disabled people, showing, and it took away from the sex symbol side and showed that she is more than just a physical appearance. She is a highly intelligent female that is basically just important to Bruce Wayne and Batman as Alfred is. Like I said, a lot of groups with disabilities and stuff looked at Barbara Gordon as a beacon of hope. Like, look, we got a character in comic books. We're comic book nerds, and we have a character that we can relate to. So when DC rebooted it and they took it away, they caught a lot of backlash from these groups.
Well, when they launched the New 52, which is one of the things that completely got me out of DC, they didn't
call that a travesty.
Travesty. A travesty in the comic book world. They didn't completely. I mean, they still had the whole arc intact. They took away the repercussion of Barbara being shot. They took away Oracle. They took away everything that she did good, like you said, as far as being hope for, or showing people with disabilities are just as competent and capable as everybody else. They took all that away because it was somehow miraculously 4 years after she gets shot, after her spinal cord gets severed or whatever from a bullet, she can walk again. And then a year later, she's Batgirl again. But she has PTSD from gunfire and all this. But, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that they took all of that away just to prove a point.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show you even comic books aren't even safe from scrutiny from PC. Because, like you said, they attacked it because, we're not showing females properly in comic books. It's comic books. It's a fantasy world.
Right. And for me, reading it, even now, I don't see Barbara Gordon being weak in this. I see her being taken by surprise. Had she been, prepared, I have no doubt that she could have defended herself. But this just, to me, for the point of the storyline, to show who the Joker is, to show what he really can do, nobody is safe.
And the madness because he could do it without even with those ugly cargo shorts on, he can do it without caring. He has no remorse.
Nobody's safe. Not even a superhero and the commissioner, her dad, the commissioner of police. No one is safe from the Joker. And how better to get Batman, on the rise than take the one person that he seems to care about and the one he holds in regard and goes to for advice and they work off each other and dismantle him and take away everything that he loves just to pull Batman out of the shadows to draw him near so he can, they can finally have their final showdown or whatever he wants from it. So it's not a weaker sex. It's not a sex symbol thing, but they did take her, the sex symbol away, I guess, by doing that and say, okay, no, she's not just this. She is a valuable, intelligent part of this team. But they completely ruined an amazing storyline, an amazing arc, and an amazing character's life story as far as Barbara Gordon goes, just so they can say, okay, here, you're happy, she can walk again.
Also, do you think they use a common comic book trope, and that is to break the hero down, destroy everyone close to him? And I don't know if they had explored it yet or not. I'm pretty sure they have. I'm not, like, some things get a little murky with me. But Barbara and Bruce had a intimate relationship at one time. And it's like Bruce said earlier on the story, how can somebody hate so much but yet know very little about it? The Joker knows what buttons to push. He knows how far
he's doing it too. Yeah.
And this is actually one of those things that you're going to see the aspect of why he's doing this. And the reason why is so simple. The method to his madness is so simple, but makes so much sense, because you come to find out the Joker and Batman are not too much different from each other. And the Joker knows this, and he wants to exploit this. So I'm going to stop right there with that part, because when we get into the Gordon part and the last infamous dialogue from that the Joker does, and we're going to get, please, Jesse, you allow both monologues to be played.
Yeah. And I got them queued up, man. I'm ready.
You're going to see the method to his madness, and you're going to hear it from two voices. Basically the most famous Joker voice of all, Mark Hamill, which anybody that's around our age grew up hearing Mark Hamill as the Joker. And it's kind of funny because reading Batman comics, I don't know if you guys do this, but anytime the Joker speaks, Mark Hamill's voice is what you hear in your head.
Absolutely.
Anytime you're reading Batman's voice, Tim Connery is the voice you hear in your head. And it goes back to how great Batman the Animated Series was.
It really was good.
All right, well, let's get into part 2 here.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that was nice. I like that. That was nice.
Okay, so we're.
I was waiting for Back at the Hall of Justice.
Part 2.
Meanwhile, back at.
Yeah, part 2. We're gonna get into a lot of Joker's origin is going to be played out here. We immediately start out with a flashback where the Joker is meeting with two guys who need him to help gain access to Ace Chemical, and apparently they're trying to get in there and rob the Monarch playing card factory. I think is what they're trying to get into. So they're meeting with the Joker and say, "Hey, we know you guys. We know you work there. Can you get us access in there?" And the Joker's decided, well, this ought to be this. Maybe this is a big break. One of the things that he mentioned earlier was about how women on the street could make so much money in a day, but he's trying to eke it out with a regular job, and he just isn't able to do it. So what he's decided to do now is maybe turn his head toward a little bit of crime, maybe get that one big payday, and that could turn things around for him and his wife and his soon-to-be son. Now, in this flashback, this is where the Red Hood gets mentioned. Now, I'm not too familiar with I'm not too familiar with the whole Batman universe. So, was the Red Hood an essential part of the Joker's origin before?
It is. I mean, it goes all the way back to his origin story back to 1951. The man behind the Red Hood, and it was the Joker, and he was going by a Red Hood alias, and he the large domed red mask, all glass or whatever, two-way glass, and a red cape. It goes right along with this storyline. It's not exactly the in-depth part of it, the failed comedian that was trying to help out or trying to do this one crime, but it is him, and he was attempting to rob a chemical plant, and he was cornered on a catwalk by Batman, and he just dove into this big vat of chemicals and swam away.
I got a question, because this is where you get a lot of continuity difference. That I know in this he jumped, but I thought in the other one it was the fact that Batman has him cornered and he's trying to back away and he hits a loose handrail and the handrail gives way under his weight, and that's what puts him into the bat and causes him basically leads to his becoming the Joker.
No, the original, the 51, he jumps.
Okay.
Yeah, he jumped in and to get away from Batman.
Okay, because you see it. You see it at. There's a lot of different takes on that, because there's some that, like, you know, you said in the 51, in this he jumped, in Killing Joke he jumped. You know, I know in Batman the Animated Series he falls, and a couple other story arcs it alludes to Batman was trying to save him, and the Red Hood's glove comes off as Batman's trying to pull him up, and the Red Hood falls into the bat, and that's part of the reason why they say that Batman has such a bond with the Joker, is the fact that Batman kind of feels the Joker knows Batman as the entity and knows that he is partially to blame for his life. But then again, Batman, it's one of the things that Batman does is a failed attempt to save someone.
Right. Yeah. He still feels that it's, I mean, in both the 51 and this one, he still feels responsible because he had he feels like he gave the guy no other choice than to jump in rather than be taken in, and, you know, being altered by the chemicals and the toxins. I mean, he was driven into insanity and became the Joker, became the killer, the maniac, his arch villain, his nemesis.
Okay, well, we're going to flash forward here real quick. Batman gets to the hospital, finds out what's happened to Barbara. He goes in there, and Barb proceeds to tell him about how the Joker mentioned was that Gordon was going to be top bill for whatever he had as plans for Commissioner Gordon. Now, there's one thing that she mentions in here, and I'm just going to bring this up. She states that his eyes, and I'm going to quote it here as soon as I find the panel. She goes, it's not okay. He's taking it to the limit this time. You didn't see his eyes. Now, I think that's an important part about what we're going to talk about here towards the end. We flash over to where Jim Gordon is at the amusement park that Joker has bought. Gordon is stripped naked, and the Joker has got some plans for him. Now, we have a nice little audio clip that Teasley was cool enough to upload for us.
It goes back to, you know, how early on in the story you see him fixating on these posters for these freaks, and then all of a sudden when you see Gordon, you got these freaks that the Joker can relate to, because Joker views himself as a freak. He views these people as normal, as he embraces the freaks of the world to be like him because they're outcasts just like he feels that he is. And so they're like leading him on, and they're like you said, they strip him naked, and then you hear Gordon goes, "Somebody please tell me what I'm doing here." And you hear the Joker, you just see like off panel it says, "You're doing what any sane man in your appalling circumstances would do. You're going mad." And you see like this tilt-a-whirl throne that he has built with baby dolls surrounding it
so
up to the steps. Yeah, and I mean, he looks like a pimp. Seriously,
he does.
He looks like a pimp just sitting up there, and he says you're going mad, which is a big part of the story, and it's basically the central theme is madness is the central theme, because Gordon has no idea what's going on. He doesn't remember anything until he sees the Joker, and the Joker says you're going mad, and he goes, "Oh no, I remember." So the Joker kind of goes on this like little speech, and he's like, you know, talking about sanity and how memories are just dwellings on the stuff. How was he put? It says, "Remember, I wouldn't do that. Remembering's dangerous. I find the past such a worrying, anxious place. The past tense, I suppose you'd call it." And I mean, he's just baiting Commissioner Gordon, just kind of, you know, taking small little jabs at him, telling him that you're basically how fragile your psyche actually is, and how easy it is to go into madness. So he has these like little freak, little midget in like in bondage clothes and tutus,
too.
And they lead him to the I think it's the Tunnel of Love, and strap him to a car in the Tunnel of Love. You know, and he keeps just like making comments, kind of pushing him a little bit, and then as he's coming down, he's talking, and you flash back to, like you said, Jesse. I never picked up on that reading this. Is that the fact that the flashbacks you see in the book might be glimpses into the Joker's own humanity as everything else is playing out. This is just basically what's going on as he's committing all this heinous stuff toward Gordon. So I'll leave it off. I'll let you, unless you want me to cover the flashback and then we go into the audio, or one of you guys can handle the flashback, then we go into the audio.
Now the audio I think that we have playing here is what he is stating there about right before he goes into the flashback, where he's talking about there is no sanity clause.
No, that's what Gordon, the first, not the Mark Hamill, the other one, the Troy.
Yeah, Troy Baker. Troy Baker.
Yeah, and that's when the big controversial thing that I know we're going to discuss. That's when Gordon is seeing the images and everything, and as Gordon is going through the Tunnel of Love. That's that part.
All right, so here we go. This is Troy Baker as the Joker.
Memories can be vile. Repulsive little brutes like children, I suppose. But can we live without them? Memories are what our reason is based upon. If we can't face them, we deny reason itself. Although, why not? We aren't contractually tied down to rationality. There is no sanity clause. So when you find yourself locked onto an unpleasant train of thought, heading for the places in your past where the screaming is unbearable, remember, there's always madness. You can just step outside and close the door, and all those dreadful things that happened, you can lock them away. Madness is the emergency exit.
Yeah.
Does that not creep you out?
That's a good clip. Where did you pull that from? Was that from something off YouTube, or was that?
That is actually okay. Are you guys familiar with the Arkham Asylum games?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
The first two, Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, the Joker was voiced by Mark Hamill. Well, Mark Hamill wanted to step down. He didn't want to do the Joker anymore because what two things? Mark Hamill's been in what? He's been an actor for how long? Since '78 when Star Wars came out, when he made it big. And you know him for two roles. You know him for exactly two roles in his entire career. Though they are great, amazing roles, and I'm pretty sure that if you ask any Joe off the street, would you want to be affiliated with one of the greatest sci-fi franchises as the lead character for the rest of your life, and one of the most iconic comic book villains, and that's the only two things that you'll ever be remembered for, they'll take it in a heartbeat. Well, Mark Hamill didn't see it that way. He wanted to step back. He didn't want that stigma of just being remembered as Luke Skywalker and the voice of the Joker. Because he's voiced the Joker, I mean, I think it's like, they counted it all up, it's like somewhere in the almost 50 times that he's provided the Joker's voice. So he wanted to step back. Well, they needed somebody to fill the void of the Joker. And that's when they brought Baker in. They's like, we was really skeptical because he is, and they go on, that was for Comic-Con when they announced Arkham Origins. That's when he took over the mantle of being the Joker. It was the fact that there's like, well, he's a big fan, but we wanted to make sure that he fit right. They sent him all this information, all this material, and he was like, well, I'm just going to send you a tape in. And of course, we'll hear the Mark Hamill monologue a little bit later. But he said he wanted to use this as his audition simply because this to him embodies what the Joker really is. It is madness. It is so, and it goes to where he's pushing Gordon. He says, as good as guys you are, there's always a way out. There's always a way out. You can give in to the madness. And madness is your emergency exit. So if you give in to the madness, madness, then you don't have to worry about anything. You can just be free of all burdens, such like the Joker is. And
it doesn't have to deal with reality at all.
And like I said, they wanted him, and like I said, it pulled up from Comic-Con when they announced, it was the panel when they announced Arkham Origins, when he first took over the mantle of the Joker. And I think that he does a great job. I mean, as great as Mark Hamill does, Baker gives a little bit more maniacal twist to it, and it shows through, like, when he's like, madness is your emergency exit. And it just, it kind of freaks me out, because as he's doing that dialogue, I'm looking at the book, reading along with it, and it's like, it plays out like a small cartoon in my head. Wow, this is just it's kind of creepy.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting another flashback here where Joker's sitting at the table at this bar. He's discussing the upcoming job with those two guys that are convincing him to go along, and so they could get in there and clean out a joint, I guess you would say. Now they start talking to him about how they want him to dress in a suit and tie and wear the red helmet or the red hood. Now, two policemen come into this bar. They ask to talk to the Joker, and they take the Joker outside, and I'm thinking, oh, man, something's going down. He's going to get busted for something. But they actually came there to inform him that his wife had died, and that the reason she had died, and she died from testing out a baby bottle heater, which I thought was kind of strange. You could see all the life just basically get drained out of the Joker. Obviously he just lost his wife, unborn child, and of course I'm sure he's sitting there thinking if he was at home, not discussing this job with these guys, maybe it never would have happened. So he goes back in and he tells the guys, like, look, I just found out my wife died. They're still wanting him to go through with the job. That's where we kind of end flashback to.
In the earlier, you see that the Joker, the guy, the pre-Joker, is really nervous and unsure about himself, unsure about how to pull this off, if he should even be doing this. But in the back of his mind, he's doing it. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it to give them a better life. When I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to wake up as a rich man dutiful in this job. And these guys, this is the question I pose, because I know the guys kind of know that he's doing this job and kind of know that he's backed into the corner. What my question to you guys is how everything is played out and worded and everything. Could these guys had a hand in the death of his wife and unborn child to ensure that he would do this?
It kind of crossed my mind, like maybe they had, but honestly, my thoughts when I first thought of that, I was like, well, wait a second, why would they do that? Because really his wife and his kid is his motivation. Why would they take that away from him?
Right.
That was the thought that went through my mind.
Being the as Mark calls me, the sociopath that I am, if you want somebody to descend into madness, you take everything that means everything to them. You take it away. They know it's like if you know you can manipulate somebody, you exploit it. What's to say that they're saying that, well, the Red Hood, we just had it's just anybody. Well, they need a fall guy, and you see that later on in this book. So what's to say that they didn't ensure that they would always have a fall guy to play the part of the Red Hood when needed, and need somebody to be there when a job needs done. They need somebody to be there that has no ties. That if they're caught by the cops or if they're killed, nobody will miss them. Kind of aspect. The crime world is a little seedy. I talk like I know, like I'm a gangster or something. but I'm just talking because if you're going to need somebody, why not take everything away from him? Because they know if once he does this job, he's out. They're never going to have him as long as his family's there.
Yeah, if his family and kids are not there, then where else is he going to turn to but his newfound buddies that he just did the job with? So I can see where you're going there.
Okay.
Dude, okay, Teasley, I know you want to talk about this next part where Gordon is on the Funhouse ride, so I'll let you go ahead and take over here and talk about this.
But basically what you got is like I said, that it comes back out and you're back in the present day and you're seeing all these like S&M midgets and everything and the fat chick and everything. And Gordon,
you kind of get a look into the mind of Alan Moore when you see the Joker's henchman in this.
Well, true.
See, a lot of people have said that this is Alan Moore's alter ego, is the Joker, and it shines through in this book, and I can see that because a lot of the stories he writes has this dark twist, and this is one of the most controversial elements in any comic book that I know of personally. And you like Jesse said, you see the Joker undressing the Barbara Gordon, and when Bruce gets to the hospital, Bullock, we forgot to mention that Bullock was there. He says he thinks Batman already knows, and he was like, her friend that done yoga found her, and she was laying there nude. And you just see the image that you see just like conveyed, the anger and the just disbelief that they drew Batman with is just like, you're like, wow. It's weird how it comes across in the comic, that they can convey that emotion in just a small panel of a comic book. You see Gordon, and you find out that the Joker is trying to break Gordon's psyche and mentally. It'll elaborate when we get to the Mark Hamill thing. But you see that the Joker has taken pictures. And Bullock mentioned that there was a camera lens found that didn't match any in the house. What he had taken pictures of, not only did he paralyze Barbara Gordon, he has taken pictures of her nude, and it is led to believe that he raped her. And this is where a lot of controversy stands, is the fact that did he or did he not rape Barbara Gordon? Because if I've watched CSI, I've watched SVU and everything, the psyche of a rape victim portrayed on TV is that of a fragile, distrusting person. It goes back to, if you want to hurt somebody, you take the components that mean the most to them from them. What better way than drive a father mad than not only paralyze his daughter and then rape her and show you photographs of her laying there helpless and naked? So, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel. Do you guys feel that it is implied that there was rape, or did he just do it as a humiliation?
I never felt that it was implied, that was implied. I thought it was just a humiliation, a stripping down of everything you are and just saying you can't do anything to help her. But I never thought that sexual assault was implied in that.
A couple of the reviews that I watched, specifically mentioned rape. Now, as to how they got to that conclusion, I don't know. But I can tell you right now, just by what's happened, she got shot and she got her clothes taken off. I would say whether there's any type of sexual things going on, clearly this is a violation of innocence in some way.
Yeah.
She's shot, she's bleeding all over the place, and we can clearly see there's like 3 or 4 pictures of her. Of her rear end, and it's horrible. There's definitely a line crossed. I did not in any way take from this and I was looking for it too, because I watched the reviews before I read the book. I didn't see anything to me that implied that like the Joker had sex with her in any way.
Right.
As far as I know, I don't have any children. There could be some illegitimate out there.
Listening to this podcast right now.
No, I'm going to put you in the mind of Gordon. Ronnie, as far as I know, you don't have any children. Jesse, you do.
No, I do not.
You do have a daughter. Say your daughter is, once she gets 21 years old and somebody wants to hurt you and humiliate you, just doing physical damage to her, would that be enough? Or would rubbing a little salt in the wound of, no, I broke her down mentally, physically, and emotionally. She will never come back from this. And you have, and here is proof of what I done to her, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Dude, one of the biggest worries as a parent is the loss of innocence in your kids.
Exactly.
There is no other big worry that kind of tops my list. I'm worried that Kira's going to not just something happen to her, but she could see something, or one of her friends could tell her something. And as a father, you try to deal with that as best as you can. But to have something like this thrown into your face, like the Joker did with the only thing that I could equate, because I'm trying to put myself in this guy's position. I'm trying to figure out if I would go insane or how I would handle it.
Would you take the emergency exit and send in the mad?
There would be the first thing I'm going to be filled with is rage. There's no doubt in my entire mind that I would be absolutely and just phenomenally pissed off and trying to figure out a way to get out of the situation that I'm in and make the man pay. That is what I was going to do. And we're going to get to a point to where Jim Gordon really shows you what a man, how he handles things. Because the way he handles this is not the way I would handle it in any way, shape, or form.
No.
No way.
Ronnie, do you want to talk about the song that the Joker is singing, why this is going on?
Just another insane glimpse into the mind of Alan Moore, because, I mean, I can't... Somehow, some way, my mind thinks up of a different tune every time. And it's always kind of that vaudevillian kind of piano music.
Yeah, dastardly 1920s silent movie piano.
Yeah.
That was the mental recording that I had reading it.
Yeah. It's just I don't know, man. It's just another creepy part of this book, and it just adds to the mental breakdown that he's trying to force Jim Gordon to go through, because I mean it's reiterating he's ever made to him, to just let go and go crazy, just to let the insanity take hold, and just let it happen. And it's another kind of it looks like it's played to be funny, but it's actually kind of chilling once you read it.
I love the discussion. I think that was a great question, by the way, because that was one of the things that went through my head was, man, what would I do in this situation? So, and I think as Alan Moore put it out there, that was the whole reason behind it. But anyway, so as Gordon's going through all this, Batman's checking everywhere to try and find the Joker. I mean, you see him going to, I think at one point he's talking to the Penguin. So finally, the bat signal shows up in the sky, and he heads over. Here's a ticket. He's given a ticket, and it says it's basically with the compliments of the Joker. So the Joker is telling him, and this is important because I'm going to come back to this. There's a few things I want to come back to at the end of this. The Joker is telling him, hey, here I am. I mean, that's what happens, right? I mean, he's giving him tickets and telling him, come get me. Batman looks at it and he takes off and he's heading to the amusement park. Now there's a couple panels, I think, after this where the Joker again stops the ride. My guess is that Gordon is on this endless loop in this funhouse ride, and he's just got to continue to go through it and see these pictures, trying to retain his sanity. Now we get another flashback. Is there anything you guys wanted to cover before I get to the next flashback?
I just want to cover one just this panel here when he does stop, and it's just it is one of the funniest. I find it amusing. Like I said, I'm not the most stable person mentally, I'll admit that, but I find amusement in this. And he says, and it shows the three midgets, like bald babies, dressed up, and the Joker is standing there, and he goes, when they went in, the chap in the middle didn't look a day over 17, and his three little pals were professional basketball players. Look at him now. Poor fella, that's what a dose of reality does to you. Never touch the stuff myself. You understand, Fawcett gets in the way of all the hallucination. And then he proceeds to make sure that Gordon is paying attention. It's like, well, hello, Mr. Gordon. How are things? And it's like you see the psyche that, like, he doesn't care what he's doing to this man's mind. It's Gordon, hello, anybody home? Because he knows Gordon is trying to zone out. And by trying to interact with him, he's not allowing him to shut down. He is keeping him cognitively alert to keep processing this stuff. Like you said, I never thought of him being on an endless loop, but that is quite a possibility because it doesn't look like the rides are very long anyway. And I don't know. I've never been on a tunnel. I've never been on a tunnel of love, so I don't know how long it would take anyway. But the Joker is just torturing him and not letting him check out mentally. He's keeping him thinking. He's keeping him alert by talking to him.
I think he thinks he broke him a little too soon because he ends up calling him boring and thinking that he refers to him as he's a complete turnip, and to put him back in his cage. And it once again just shows you how far the Joker's willing to go to get what he wants and to drive the man insane. Yeah,
so they, at the end of that, they pretty much they took him off the ride, and Joker has him put in a cage. Put him in his cage. So Jim is off of the ride now, and he's in a cage. Now we get this final bit of a flashback here, and this is the this is some of the origin story that you guys were referencing earlier. So it's the night of this job where the Joker's got his two buddies that are getting him into crime, and the Joker's all dressed up, and they put the red hood on him, and they put the cape on him. So they enter in the Ace Chemical factory. Now, prior to this, the Joker said, hey, they hardly have any security. Well, now they do. Since they've apparently upgraded some things since the Joker's left, security starts, firing on these guys, and they're trying to run and basically get away. Now, there's a point where I think both as the two goons that were getting them into this get shot or get pinned down, and they start to talk about how, hey, we're just two guys, get the ringleader. Now, I don't think we made this clear earlier. We may have, but these two guys are obviously the masterminds behind this, but this Red Hood character has been apparently pretty prominent in the underworld for quite a while, and so a lot of people think he's like the Red Hood is this criminal mastermind or whatever. But what we end up finding out is that these two guys are actually the mastermind. They just put the Red Hood on some schlub. That way that he's the guy that the cops will go after and maybe leave those guys alone so they can get away just in case there's any heat on them. The Joker, he can't see out this helmet very well. He takes off running. The Batman shows up. He tells the security guys, stop using your guns, proceeds to follow after the Red Hood. And this is where, the Joker is, I think he's hanging from the rail, getting ready to, he's on a rail. And he turns around and he sees Batman. And mind you, the Joker he's still upset about what's happened to his wife and what's going on. He looks at the Batman and he thinks that the Batman's there to punish him. He says that at one point. And it looks like the Batman reaches out to try and save him, but Joker feels that there's nothing else to do but to jump. It's to try and get away. So he jumps into this chemical waste pond, crawls to the bank. He's escaped the Batman, but he's pulling the red helmet off, and we have our first appearance of the Joker.
And one of the most iconic images of Batman.
Exactly what. Yes.
Anytime you think of the Joker or anything, look up if you search Joker images, this is one of the most recognizable images from the Joker's lore.
I think I had a shirt with that on it. Seriously, back in like '89 or something, back when the movie first came out, I had a white shirt with that picture on there, with that panel on there.
Loot Crate, if those familiar with Loot Crate, their villains crate that they done back, I think was in maybe June or July. It had a full, I think it was 11 by 16 poster of this image. So I mean, it's an iconic image of the Joker.
Just the chemicals change. I mean, they changed this guy's psyche. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's already close to snapping anyway because he lost his wife and his child, and he's forced into doing this crime anyway, which he was doing for them to support them. So, and all of a sudden, this masked, I mean, he looks like a monster, comes after him, and then it's just a bad day gone worse for him. And he gets out and he takes his hood off, and he realizes his skin is stark white. I mean, he's bleeding from the eyes. He's got green hair. And he's like, oh, that's it. I'm gone. Done. The rubber band has snapped.
You brought up something that is the central theme of this. Not only is madness, Ronnie, it's one bad day.
Yeah, and it's just a bad day.
And that's why I wanted to make it clear that early on when we was discussing, this entire thing takes place over about 12 hours because of something the Joker says. It's basically the guy has nothing to live for. Everything has been taken away from him. Oh yeah, and I'm horribly disfigured now. And and it's like what he was telling Gordon, just to embrace the madness, take the emergency exit, embrace the madness. When you have nothing to care about, life is so much simpler and so much more, quote unquote, as he sees it, fun. Because if you don't have a conscience, then you can do whatever you want with no repercussion.
All right. Well, okay, so that ends part 2.
There we go.
All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. So now we're going to flash forward again. Now, again, my theory is that he's thinking of this stuff as the day's going by. He's recollecting what's happened to him, what's caused the Joker to become what he has. Jim's in a cage, and the Joker is continually making this case for madness. just like you guys have been saying, embrace it, take the emergency exit. Well, Batman shows up, and we get our first fight between the Joker and the Batman in this book. One of the important things is, prior to him, actually during this fight, there's no words, I don't think, that even transpire between the Batman and Joker. They just, Joker looks at him as the Batman pulls up in his Batmobile, and he gets out, and Batman just immediately leaps on him. Well, and throughout the fight, though, he's thinking that whole monologue that he brought into that cell at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So he's wanting to try and figure out a way to reason, but he's not saying the words, which I think is pretty. That says a lot as to what's going through the Batman's mind. So we get a tussle. The Joker slips away and gets into a fun house. Batman sees Jim Gordon in his cage and proceeds to rescue Jim, get him out of there. So now this is a pretty, again, another important part of this book, and what I referenced there earlier. All that Jim's been through, the Batman's ready to go take out the Joker. He says, Jim looks at him, he says, you have to go after him. I want him brought in, and I want him brought in by the book. Batman looks, he's kind of looking, I don't think he's looking at Jim at this time. He's looking away, and he says, I'll do my best. And Jim's yelling at him, by the book, you hear, we have to show him that our way works. So after everything that Jim's been through, after everything Commissioner Gordon has been through, I would be walking with the Batman asking for like a batarang or something to try and take out the Joker. I want to go kill this mamma jamma and make sure he doesn't bother anybody else or go through any of that. And I'm sure that that's what the Batman's probably thought hundreds of times that he's tried to deal with the Joker. So that's Batman proceeds to follow the Joker into the fun house, and over the speakers we have our Mark Hamill clip. So
there's some points that we can hit before we go into the overrun and play the Mark Hamill clip. One being Gordon wants to stay by the book. It goes back to the whole take away everything that means something to damage someone the most. That is, Batman's humanity is also in question. And he brings this up later on, is Batman had actually cared for Barbara and had a intimate relationship with her. So Batman is conflicted as do the right thing or get vengeance. So it's kind of one of those things that his personal morals are being questioned. Would you agree?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know how I would react. I mean, I'm a vengeful person. I don't care if I have road rage. If you cut me off, I want to hunt you down and beat you, give you Ric Flair chops on the 4-lane in Charlotte. Basically paralyzing my daughter and then humiliating her, taking away her humanity. I'm going to want to castrate you and pretty much strap you to a metal chair in a little kitty waiting pool and hook a car battery up to the chair and just let it slowly electrocute you till you can't take no more, till you actually give up.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to die. I mean, that is the first thought, is like, how would I be able to kill this person or get my hands on them?
Or I would beat you with and just cut you with razor blades and throw you in a swimming pool full of lemon juice and salt.
Even more graphic.
You would think that I have a work mind talking about this, or I put some thought into maybe possibly taking revenge on people, huh?
Possibly.
No.
Hey, 1988 DC. I thought about this. We've already talked about a lot of adult situations that's happened in this book. It took me kind of by surprise because obviously this had to have had some kind of disclaimer on it or something. You would have thought back when it was released in '88. Not only that, there's the couple goons used a few curse words there. I believe asshole was said and son of a bitch was used also.
Mm-hmm.
It just took me by surprise for a DC book in '88.
This was a more adult title. I mean, you got some language, some brief nudity. I mean, things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, in the pictures and in the. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
and
sure.
then, Okay, but I mean, them bringing Jim Gordon out, I mean, you can see quite a bit of what Gordon's got going on there.
Yeah. And
things like that. So there had to have been some kind of disclaimer on it.
I would have thought, I could be totally wrong. I mean, this is definitely an adult book for something that came out, and then that was definitely Comics Code era. It wasn't like it was extreme Comics Code or anything like that, like where like immediately after it was set. But so kudos to DC for allowing something like this to come to the stands, because obviously it was. It was important. Number one, it was a great story, but number two, it's part of DC canon, part of the DC universe, because, they allowed what happened to Barbara Gordon to carry over into the comic books that you can pick up on the newsstand. Great that they let it go out, or come out, that's for sure. I think...
Well, we're going to pick this up into where Batman catches up with the Joker in the Funhouse. And this is the Mark Hamill, who is, one of two famous roles he has, is the Joker from the Batman series. And this is one of the most famous monologues of any comic book ever written. This monologue that we're about to hear basically takes us up to almost to the very end of the book and how it ends and the controversial ending that it has.
Here we go. All right, Mark Hamill as the Joker.
So, I see you received the free ticket I sent you. I'm glad. I did so want you to be here. You see, it doesn't matter if you catch me and send me back to the asylum. Gordon's been driven mad. I've proved my point. I've demonstrated that there's no difference between me and everyone else. All it takes is one bad day to reduce the sanest man alive to lunacy. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day. You had a bad day once. Am I right? I know I am. Why else would you dress up as a flying rat? You had a bad day, and it drove you as crazy as everybody else. Only you won't admit it. You have to keep pretending that life makes sense, that there's some point to all this struggling. God, you make me want to puke. I mean, what is it with you? What made you what you are? Girlfriend killed by the mob, maybe? Brother carved up by some mugger? Something like that, I bet. Something like that. Something like that happened to me, I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. My point is, I went crazy. When I saw what a black, awful joke the world was, I went crazy as a coot. I admit it. Why can't you? I mean, you're not unintelligent. You must see the reality of the situation. Do you know how many times we've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen? Do you know what triggered the last World War? An argument over how many telegraph poles Germany owed its War Department creditors. Telegraph poles! It's all a joke. Everything anybody ever valued or struggled for, it's all a monstrous, demented gag. So why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you laughing?
Okay.
Perfect Joker voice, man.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Who do you? I mean, of course, our age group is always going to lean toward Mark Hamill. But hearing Mark Hamill do that monologue, and then going back and hearing the previous monologue, how do you see the comparison?
I think Mark Hamill. I mean, his voice is such a. It's an iconic voice. I mean, that is the voice of the Joker. I mean, he is the Joker to tons of people.
Entire generation. So
he did his best to and improve on it. Not improve on it, but I guess he thinks he's trying to. Or maybe he doesn't think he can improve on it, but imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So I think it sounds a lot like Hamill, and I think he does a good job, but there's only one Mark Hamill.
That's a fair point.
I'll go ahead and be honest here. I wish I could tell you guys that I watched a lot of Batman when I was a kid, but I did not. But I knew that Mark Hamill did the voice work, just for what I've heard from YouTube here, probably in the last 3 or 4 years. But as for comparing the two, I give Mark Hamill props because he definitely that would be the guy that would embody the Joker the best for me. If I was reading the Joker, his voice would probably be the one that'd go through my head. Other than was it Troy Baker? Troy Baker.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
What's even better is if you actually watch the videos of him doing the Joker voice, Mark Hamill that is, and just seeing how he contorts his face to look like the Joker, like he is actually getting into the Joker character, is unreal. Yeah, he just has this look that he could be talking. You're thinking Luke Skywalker, of course, and just when he goes in, it's like he embodies a whole new persona, and his face contort, and he just gets this look about him that is like he is the Joker, and it is so creepy.
Okay, now as for what's said during that monologue, obviously one of the things we're taking from here is the whole, one bad day can turn you mad, and I'm a big believer of that. There's a lot of people where just one traumatic thing has changed them so much that they may become mentally ill. Matter of fact, I think Mark Radulich, patriarch of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, just shared an article earlier today that mental illness has a lot of its roots based on some type of trauma or loss that's happened in the past. Now, I think a lot of us already knew that, but I think, that they're starting to understand that is a lot of how mental illness is formed. Again, just reinforcing the fact that, one bad day can really change things. When you look at the comparison between the Joker and the Batman, Joker obviously, he is your definition of insane, where reality just does not apply to this guy. Batman, however, has continued to try to allow reality, even though I think there could be a pretty easy case that Bruce Wayne is completely insane. The guy dresses up as a bat and goes out and proceeds to beat up criminals and get beat up himself, all in the name of, something that's happened to him when he was a child, that one night where his parents got killed. Joker and Batman are two sides of the same coin. They are both insane, just one of them handles it differently.
And that's what the Joker's point is. Joker is, and it goes back to, is where I give props to Christopher Nolan and Heath Ledger. In the movie, it's stated, the Joker exists because of Batman. Stuff like that. It's without you, there would be no me. We are destined to do this little dance we do forever. I can't kill you because without you, there's no me. You can't kill me because I'm the purpose that you were around. Stuff like that, and it's like, it's stated many times, we're not that much different. It's, I chose to go down a vengeful path. You chose to go, the Joker, Batman chose to be a vigilante that's looked upon as a good guy. But if you actually think about it, the Joker is basically had one bad day and he snapped like anybody would. With anybody that goes through that much loss would snap, and he just gave up. He don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to basically do what makes me feel good about myself. Screw everything else. We're the same person, on just we took different. We chose to handle our situation differently. You chose to be a good guy. I chose to be pure evil. And that's what the Joker is. Joker is the epitome of pure evil. He is insanity in its physical form.
One of the other things I want to bring up about that monologue is the fact that he mentions that he says he's talking about his bad day, and he says something like that happened to me. It says, I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes I remember, sometimes another. I think what Alan Moore's introducing here is the fact that we've been watching this whole origin story. This is just one possibility that the Joker is running through his head. The whole origin that we just watched happen before our eyes may not have actually happened at all. That's why I was thinking this is probably happening in real time, and if it is, he's just, what we're seeing is just one version of what he thinks happened to him that changed him. I think that's important because not only does it leave anything open, things open-ended to where somebody else can come in from a business standpoint and just change the Joker's origin and say, okay, this is what happened. But it also shows you the madness that this guy has already been affected by. He may not even freaking remember what happened and changed him to into what he is right now.
And that's a funny thing because I keep referencing this movie because Heath Ledger did such a great job. Did you notice in The Dark Knight how the Joker's origin story kept changing, how he got scars?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the real reason behind that?
No, I don't.
I think I do, but go ahead.
Heath Ledger couldn't remember his lines. And no, it's true. And when Heath Ledger said, and he referenced the Killing Joke, he said, there's a part in the book, the Joker doesn't even know his own origin story. So why would he tell the same story twice? He said, why am I going to learn the same story to tell every time I'm asked about it? Why would I do that? Right here is the exact epitome of, sometimes I remember it this way, sometimes I think that line is actually in the movie. He says, sometimes I remember it this way, sometimes I don't. I remember it some way else. And it's like, I want my origin story to have multiple choices. It's like he don't really want nobody to know because the last person that he cared about and that cared about him, he lost. And I think that's a peek into his humanity is he doesn't want nobody to know because he don't want emotional attachment. And this is where I get to where how well the book is illustrated and written, because you see it actually makes you feel empathy. It makes you feel like you get some remorse and you get the feels for old Joker, because you look at it as, well, maybe when you step back and look at it, well, maybe he doesn't want nobody to know his origin because he doesn't want to let anybody get close. He could be a great man, and Batman says, and we're getting ready to get in, he tells him, he says, look, we can rehabilitate you and everything. And the Joker's like, Joker just is basically like zoned out and tells him a joke.
Ronnie, did you have anything else to add before I go into the fight?
Let's go into the fight.
All right. Batman breaks through and Joker's right there, and we get ourselves another fight between the Joker and Batman. They go back and forth. At one point, the Joker gets the upper hand by taking like a 2x4 to the Batman's head. As Batman's kind of down, Joker grabs this knife and he's about to stab Batman, and of course Batman stops him, sends the Joker flying. He hits him so hard, Joker goes flying. He's kind of laying on his ass there. The Joker just pulls a pistol out, turns around, and he's got Batman dead to rights. And there's almost like this look of fear on Batman's face. I wish I could. That's what the way I
like
take
concern.
that. Concern. Yeah, exactly. He's great. Now I'm dead, or you're wanting to see what's going to happen. But in the next panel, the trigger's pulled and out pops the classic Joker gun, where the little flag pops out and it says click, click, click. And the Joker looks at the gun and he says, "Damn it, it's empty." And that's what usually you see bang, but this one said click, 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 which I thought was pretty funny. But anyway, the Joker looks at him and he pretty much says, what are you waiting on? Why don't you beat the crap out of me? Let's get this over with. The smile is off the Joker's face at this point in time.
I said, I take it to this is like one of the small instances his humanity is actually shining through.
I agree. I agree. I think what we have here in front of us is not the Joker that, the insane guy. This is the guy that is like, hey, what are you waiting for? You beat the crap out of him.
It's almost like he's tired.
Yeah, he does have that look of exhaustion on his face.
Like, all right, I know what's coming. Just get it over with. Let's do this. Exactly. But Batman, of course, says, nope. Commissioner told me to do this one by the book, and I don't want to. I don't want to do it. Bruce tries to make a case for them to understand one another and stop going down this, this destructive path.
finally Bruce is getting to tell the Joker what he's been wanting to tell him the whole freaking book, because one of them are going to die. The Joker says, it's too late for that. We've gone down this path way too far. This is the end. We can't reconcile this. So this is where Joker then proceeds to tell Batman a joke. Okay, now I can read you the joke, which is actually kind of funny. Two guys in a lunatic asylum, and one night they decide they don't like living in an asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. So they get up onto the roof, and there, just across the narrow gap, they see the rooftops of the town stretching away in the moonlight, stretching away to freedom. Now the first guy, he jumps right across with no problem, but his friend daren't not make the leap. You see, he's afraid of falling. So then the first guy has an idea. He says, "Hey, I have my flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings. You can walk along the beam and join me." But the second guy just shakes his head. He says, He says, "What do you think I am, crazy? You turn off when I was halfway across." Of course, at that panel, he turns around. He's got that Joker smile on his face, and he's looking at Batman and proceeds to laugh. It starts out as a little bit of a laugh, and the Batman's just sitting there with this stoic Batman face, and then all of a sudden you see a smirk come across the Batman's face, and he starts to laugh a little bit. And meanwhile, the Joker is laughing at the same time. The police are just arriving. You can see they're pulling in the background. We got these last 5 panels. My guess is that both the Joker and Batman are just howling with laughter,
like clubbing bagels.
That would be just like that. But in the first panel of these 5, you see Batman. Basically, it's just the silhouettes of the Joker and Batman. You can see the Joker's face, but you the silhouettes are there. And the Joker's laughing, and he's kicked back with laughter. And Batman's got his arms out. He's got him on the Joker, like he's bracing the Joker because he's laughing so damn hard. He's got to brace the Joker to keep from falling down. But if you look at that panel and you look at that face on the Batman, I don't know if you could say that he's actually laughing or if he's got a very sinister look on his face. The next 4 panels are pretty unremarkable, other than the fact that we see the siren, the siren whee, and the howling laughter continues, and they kind of zoom in to the bodies of Batman and the Joker. You can only see their legs. And then the next panel is just a showing of their feet, but something's changed. You can still see the sirens. Apparently the sirens are still wailing, but the laughter is completely stopped. And the next panel is there's no feet in it whatsoever. There's no noises whatsoever other than just the rain dropping from the sky and the puddles on the road. And then the final panel is just a complete, almost as much as the same, except my guess is that the lights are now turned out. Because I think what we're seeing here in these panels are reflections of the light from the cops. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because you see a yellow light going. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it's almost like a camera panning down towards the ground.
Okay. Because it looked like a yellow streak at first, and I didn't put it together till right now. That I thought, well, that's the road, or like the markings of the road. But I'm wondering if that's not the reflection of the lights from the cops coming in there.
That's how I took it.
What do you think the brown stuff is?
The reflection of the amusement park lights or something, because they're still at the amusement park.
That's right. What do you think the brown stuff is? Is that just dirt and mud?
Just like moss and dirt and mud.
Yeah, I don't think it has any significance.
Okay. Well then, and then the final panel, it's pretty much just fade to black. All we see is rain. So we have the Joker tells a joke to the Batman, and the Batman laughs. They both howl with laughter, and that's the end. That's the end of the book. What do you guys take? Okay, now let me hear. I want to hear from Ronnie first. What do you think, man?
Well, I can tell you what. It's not an unremarkable end, but it was the only way that they could really end it, I guess, in my opinion, because it just kind of leaves that question mark hanging in the air. What happened? And I know where y'all are going with it because I've read articles on it as well. Listened to a little bit of a podcast about it, or an interview, I should say. And then, but it's left up to you to decide, I guess, or to the reader to go, oh, well, he must have arrested him and taken him back to Arkham, or did he kill the Joker?
Well,
Yeah.
I think this goes back to the interpretation of the whole Barbara scene as well, because implied what could have happened, but it never answers that question. Just like it never answers the question what really happened. I think that personally, I think it's more or less it's open ended, like you guys said, strictly because you don't want to close that avenue. You want to be able to expound upon it, and giving the reader the chance to interpret it differently. Like, I'm sure that I take a lot from this book that you guys don't. Most noticeably, I take it as the Joker raped Barbara. You guys don't believe that, so it leaves, and that's ultimate to how it was written. It lets you interpret things due to personal preference and take things that you can relate to and that you want to believe, and why this happened and everything. It lets you interpret those things and basically choose your own adventure. Like the Joker said, I like my origin story to be choose your own adventure. And that's what it does for each and every reader. No, I don't think there's going to be any two people that take the same message from this book.
I hear you. Well, okay. I want to give you my opinion on this because I've thought a lot about this today. If somebody tells me that this is the last Joker story, I honestly think that it is. And there are a lot of things in this story that really just make sense for it to be. One of the main things is, I mean, we go back to the point in which Joker just showed up and shoots Barbara. All right, if the Joker's been doing all this stuff all this time, the Batman's been there to kind of correct him, put him back into Arkham, put him back into Arkham. The Joker's finally made a decision. You know what? I'm going to cross these lines with the Batman. My honest to goodness opinion here is the Joker's actually planning on committing suicide. The Joker set all this up in order for the Batman to come and kill him at the end of this arc. He kills Barbara Gordon. When Barbara Gordon's laying in the ER and she looks at Batman and tells him, his eyes are different. Yeah, they're different. He's finally starting to reconcile with what's happened in his past. During this whole book, he's remembering or trying to remember what brought him to become the Joker. At the end of the book, I believe Batman gets a hold of the Joker when Joker tells him we've gone past that point. That's pretty much the answer that Bruce Wayne, that the Batman's been looking for this whole time. Is there a point to where we can reconcile? And the Joker just pretty much tells him, no, there's not. So the whole point of this book is one of us is going to die. So I think at the end of the book, Batman says, he starts laughing because, and I just thought to myself, I think in one fell swoop, Batman succumbed to his own madness. And you know how Jim was like, go by the book, go by the book. Batman at first is adamant about going by the book. And then when the Joker says, nope, you know what, we're past this point, he then realizes there's no hope for either of us. And this is way out there, too. But in front of the cops, he breaks the Joker's neck. That's why the sirens go off. That's why the laughter stops. Because
okay.
Go ahead. No, that's it. Now, by the way, for those that are listening to this article that we were talking about, the guy that first talked about this was Grant Morrison. He said he had believed it was the last Joker story, but there's not really. I think reading that they had said there wasn't anything in the script for that to be there. But I could see old crazy Alan Moore just going, you know what, I'm going to write these guys something, and he did a great job to leave it up to the reader, just like you guys said. It's one of that is a powerful tool that many writers have, is allowing a reader to take it where they want to.
All right, I'm going to pose this question really quick and just let you guys think on it, and then if you want to discuss it. What's the everybody hypothetically says your life flashes before your eyes before you die. What if we're just getting these glimpses of the Joker, the flashback, because the Joker is dying? He wants, and I just never realized that till Jesse just started talking. And it's like, well, maybe, everybody says your life flashes before your eyes before you die. What if they're just inserting these little flashbacks because the Joker Batman really killed the Joker, and we're just seeing the Joker's life flash before his eyes, his own humanity coming to the forefront rather than the madness. I don't know. I mean, it's just a crazy theory that I came up with.
I think I could see that as being valid, and that's what this book is makes it so great is the fact that is entirely possible. At the end of this, I don't think Batman's laughing at the Joker's joke at all. I think he is laughing at the fact that he tried to give this guy chance after chance after chance, and now he realizes how funny it is that he's actually tried to do that, and he's come to a final solution. The final solution is that he has to kill this guy.
Yeah, it boils down to Batman realizing the absurdity of the situation, of him standing in front of his arch nemesis, his number one, his foe, the guy that is the thorn in his side, his number one in his rogues gallery, and he's telling him a joke. I mean, it's boiled down to this. He told him there's an ultimatum: either you die or I die. And the Joker finishes it up by telling him a joke. And
it just feels so pre-planned to me. Like this was, this was how he's going to end it. I know. When the Joker pulls out the pistol and he's got Batman dead to rights, Joker knew that gun was empty. I mean, when he pulled the gun out, he knew it was empty, and he was waiting. He was begging Batman to kick the shit out of him. He wanted that. He felt like he needed that for. But yeah, of course it wasn't going to happen right then until afterwards. But yeah, good point, Ronnie. Absolutely.
And I read and listened to Grant Morrison. It was on Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman, where Grant Morrison said that he believes that Batman reached out and choked the life out of the Joker. And Alan Moore has even gone on record saying that he didn't intend for this to be canon. He didn't intend for this to be a part of the DC universe. That was DC's call. So It is a very ambiguous ending. It is a very open end to let you think, is this the end of the ride? Is this where Batman finally put a stop to it? Or does that vicious circle start all over again by putting him back in Arkham? I mean, even after trying to drive his friend insane, after, humiliating and stripping away the innocence of a woman that he's been intimate with, has possibly loved. He's done all these awful things. He still gives him that last chance to say, we can fix you. I can fix you. And he says, no, it's too late. Is that the final straw? Is that the one that says, well, that's it? And then he tells him a joke, and he's laughing at it, and he laughs at the joke, and then he laughs at the situation. It's like, this guy is really insane, and he's never going to stop. I have to stop him. And, do I snap his neck or choke him or whatever? Or do I just walk him back up and let it start all over again?
Man. Oh, and definitely some great discussion on this book, guys. Man, it's definitely beats JLA versus Predator.
I think one of the good things about this is we got three really different perspectives from the same book, and Ronnie sees things differently than I see them. It's like it's a good example. It's like, Jesse, you're Gordon, Ronnie's Batman, and I'm the Joker. Ronnie's the more rational thinking one. He's like, well, I'm the one that's saying no. I'm the madness guy. I see the madness. I'm the one showing compassion for the Joker. Jesse, you're the one that's like, well, no, I would want to kill him. You're seeing kind of things like from a Gordon perspective, like, no, he has to be stopped. Ronnie's saying, oh, no, as the rational one, I'm the one that descends into madness. I mean, I think I'm glad that we all three got to do this together, because it gives really three great discussion and perspectives of one of the all-time greatest Batman stories that's ever been written.
Absolutely. I think that we did an awesome job covering this one, and let's go ahead and we'll start to... Oh, wait a second here. Give me just a second. Let me find it.
Thank you very much for joining us. Do not forget to subscribe to our new home by punching in W2M Network on just about any podcast platform to get all of our content into your audio feed. Also, give a like to the Radulich in Broadcasting Network and W2Mnet.com Facebook page in order to stay on top of everything that we have to offer. If you'd like to follow the Source Material Podcast on social media, just follow @SourceMattCast on Twitter, and we are on Facebook @Source Material Comics Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please feel free to share. We look forward to entertaining you again soon.